Bethany Dawson. Well, we can see one of the two of you is here. Charlie's having a bit of Boxing Day travel issues, but we'll be here later in the programme. We're here until 10, so we've got plenty of time to get through the papers. And just looking at the front pages, very little surprise that there is lots on the royal families. The Daily Mail front page references to the King. Charles, my heartfelt gratitude to selfless doctors and nurses, reference there to the King's speech that was on at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Lots of people, I'm sure, tuning in for that. And also pictures of Kate as well when they did their walkabout in Sandringham post Christmas Day service. So that's, you know, we could go through paper after paper after paper, but you want to pick out something on the eye because it's taken a different tack.
Yeah, this is not a very happy Christmas story for Keir Starmer. Labour is facing growing threat as voters shift to Reform UK. This is a story about some data from the polling guru, John Curtis, who has found that support for Labour has kind of fallen off a bit of a cliff and is being taken over with Reform, who is now tying with Labour and the Conservatives. This isn't actually a story that either Keir Starmer or Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservatives, wants to be reading. But I think this is really interesting for what we're going to see next year in local elections, in the Senedd elections, that local parties, smaller parties even, are getting this massive surge in support. We saw this at the general election, but that's actually quite different from the way that we normally vote in the UK. It's quite unprecedented. It's very hard to poll, which is, you know, Sir John Curtis can do anything when it comes to polling. But it's really interesting, and this is, and as is probably going to be a growing theme as we go through these papers, going to be one of the biggest headaches for Keir Starmer as we go through 2025.
And if you've been on Twitter X recently, you'll have surely seen Nigel Farage's ticker, this live ticker that's showing membership of the party, saying that effectively they reckon they're soon going to overtake the Conservatives.
They think they are. I think that was their hope yesterday. I'm not actually sure if they managed to get quite there. But they are gaining support massively. They're gaining this membership, which does mean a financial investment, which you kind of have to see is more than kind of a tweet or saying, I really like the party. That is people wanting to invest in the success of this movement. And I think it is something that, you know, maybe this time last year we would have been saying it's probably nothing, you know, Nigel Farage really does like to run to be MP. But now we're looking at it and going, actually, this is going to be a massive story for at least the next year, if not going forward.
You talk about investing, obviously there's that kind of potential that the world's richest man may well invest in the party as well. Elon Musk with reports of £78 million, potentially.
Exactly. And this isn't a very wealthy party. One of the major reasons that they were criticised was because of a lack of professionalism. They didn't have good vetting for their candidates. That came up in the news a lot. And Nigel Farage, at least, says that money is going to change that, professionalising the operation. And we will possibly, if Reform gets this massive injection of cash from Elon Musk, see that all change.
Just a brief nod to lots of, not just King's speech yesterday, but obviously lots of sermons as well. We heard from the Pope in the Vatican. We also heard from the Archbishop of York, who is filling in for the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, who is going to step down in the new year. And this is on page 7 of the Eye, Stephen Cottrell there in the centre of the column, and references obviously to all of the challenges the Church of England's been facing. And there was the end of his sermon. It said, don't just talk to me about justice, show me. And that's going to be really pivotal, I think, for the Church in the next few months as they go forward. And obviously Stephen Cottrell, also kind of facing criticisms of some of his handling of these things as well. So that's page 7 of the Eye. What else have we got today? The Daily Express, Christmas crossings.
Yes. There were 400 people who crossed the Channel into the UK yesterday, Christmas Day. One of the reasons for this kind of slight uptick is because it was quite calm weather day. We do see that crossings do kind of correlate with how difficult the weather is, how easy it would be, how safe it would be to make that crossing. But again, this is one of these issues that is just going to keep being a headache for Keir Starmer. How do they tackle this? Starmer is being kind of criticised, admittedly, by his critics, by kind of the expected bunch, for not tackling this quickly enough. He's trying to smash the gangs. People are saying, well, if you look at this, is it working? But these are things that take time. Interestingly, in this Express story, they quote Reform MP Rupert Lowe, who's in Greater Yarmouth. This crossing was in Dover. They are clearly sort of making a real space to talk about this in Reform. But again, it is just going to be one of these difficult things. Winter, generally, you see less crossings, so maybe there's a bit of breathing space for Keir Starmer and his team to strategise exactly how they're going to do it before we see increased crossings in the summer. But it's just going to be on his very long list of things to try and sort out.
And at the end of the day, being in power since the 4th of July, Conservatives 14 years, had many of the same issues, many record years as well. 2022 in particular was large numbers. And, you know, Rishi Sunak didn't manage to stop the boats.
No, absolutely. And Keir Starmer keeps reminding us of that, right? When there are issues like this, when there are issues like waiting lists in the NHS that have been a problem for a long time, he makes sure to let people know, you know, look, it's been this way for a while and I'm working on it. And that makes a lot of sense. You know, as you say, it's been 6 months that Keir Starmer has been in number 10. But the problem is people are impatient. And whilst absolutely we can sit here and say, this is not something that can get sorted out in 6 months or a year, people aren't satisfied by that. People want things to be fixed faster, and I think number 10 know that, and they are, you know, they're scrambling, they're working quickly, but there is frankly only so much you can do.
And if you think of Reform, Rupert Lowe, coastal constituency, Nigel Farage, coastal constituency, you know, you can see the manifestation of those frustrations by communities there, which, you know, is indicative for many other parts of the UK as well. And it's, you know, it's always the thing, isn't it, that both main parties, Labour and Conservatives, will put figures on why they want the number of nurses and doctors to be, on the number of new police officers, where the house building, 1.5 million in 5 years. The one area of policy they will not, cannot and have not ever given a figure is migration, because it is so difficult to tackle.
Yeah, and it is so unpredictable. There are so many other forces that are out of our control, whether that's, you know, whether that's conflicts in other countries, whether it's humanitarian crises in other countries that we can't control, that do ultimately lead to migration changing across the world. It's really dangerous to put a cap on or put a target on because you could so easily fail it.
Before we start talking about the papers, during the ad break, we were talking about Christmas Day.
We were.
And we're going to be talking actually later in the programme about some of the incredible TV. I asked you what you did for your Christmas Day, and your response was television and potatoes.
That was not meant to be aired on television, but thank you very much.
What TV were you watching?
Well, we watched Wallace and Gromit, which I have to admit...
What was it? I didn't get to see it.
Well, I fell asleep. It was too soon after our Christmas dinner, but what I saw was fantastic. And Gavin and Stacey, which your wonderful makeup team had to work harder to reduce the bags under my eyes because I was sobbing. And EastEnders, which is actually not quite my thing, but my brother is a real avid fan, and we got to watch that.
There's a little nod there. TV review, 5 stars, Gavin and Stacey on the BBC. Obviously, end of an era there. We will talk more about, actually, the papers in due course throughout the course of the programme, and we will also talk about Christmas and Boxing Day TV as well. Appreciate it. For the moment, though, we'll leave Gavin and Stacey, we'll leave the papers as well. Thank you so much. Plenty more to come here on Sky News Breakfast. Do stay with us throughout the course of the morning. We're back with all the day's top stories after a short break. We'll also be reflecting on the 20th anniversary of the Boxing Day tsunami across Southeast Asia. Plenty more to come. Do stay with us.
There's always more to the news than